So welcome to Bunny's Designs. This is a live Thursday stream. It's recorded for Ustream.tv and also for YouTube for people to watch at their leisure. I'm working in Imagimorphia, and this was I think the first book, so I'm a bit behind. So I'm trying to go back to my colour books and catch up. And I had a new rule of not to buy any new colour books, but of course I broke that in Ireland, and I also with the Harry Clarke books, and I did find a Harry Potter book for £2.99, and it's the magical artifacts one, and I hadn't got that one, so for £2.99 I couldn't resist it. So what I'm going to do today is I'm using my new set of the Derwents, and these are a little bit more crumblier than my original set of probably 25 years ago. So this new set is all that you buy now. So if you go on the Derwent website, this is the one that has the tiger or the lion on the front. I'm using number 3 gold and golden brown 59, and I'm going to scratch the colours, and as you can see there's a little bit of dust there. I've wet them, and I like this way of working, and it also reminds me of how I got the colours. So I shall be mixing the colours down and then using them to colour the page, and to do that what I've done is labelled it. So it's easier with the Derwents because you can just put the number of the pencil, you don't have to write out the names, but it means that if I want to make this colour again, I just have to get these two colours out, and it will show how I follow through the whole of the colour book, so the colour page. So this is going to be all gold, but what I wanted was a pale gold, and then I wanted a shadow effect, so that's what I've got with these two. So I was going to use an orange colour, then I realised it was actually the wrong kind of colour, and then I remembered that there's a golden brown when you look in the brown section on number 59. There's 72 in the whole set, but of course you've got 72 colours, but you've got thousands of others as well. So thanks guys for stopping by. This is a live show, so I will be I will be answering questions and having a natter with everybody in chat. So welcome guys, thanks for stopping by. It's a very warm day today, and I don't have any windows open, so apologies if the fan's blowing about a bit. So this could go from golden to green, I think, there. But first of all, I want to start at the top. So I'm going to start with the lightest. Now you can do lots of different ways to use these pencils. If I could only have one set of pencils, it would be my original set. I like these slightly better. The pigment, the binder, sorry, is slightly different. The colours are the same, but the binder is slightly stronger in this one. And so if you see the Derwent watercolour pencils in this colour, you know it's vintage, and they may crack and do all sorts of things, but the colours are wonderful. If you see them for sale in this colour with the dipped side, then you know that this is the new version that's been out probably maybe about 10 years possibly. But this is the new version. So this, I thought I would use this one for this particular book. Sorry, page, beg your pardon. So we've got the gold, so you can either scratch colour in, so you could scratch colour and then mix the colours together as in two pencils, and then end up with a darker colour and then bring another darker colour in to really get some shadow effects, and then manipulate it with a brush. You can also use these as a blendable pencil, or you could make a wash, so you could scratch colour. Oops, sorry about the rattle. You could take a blade and scratch colour and make a well and make colour, so you can use them for washes, or you can use them for fine detail, and this is how you use them for fine detail. But we haven't got too much fine detail in here, but you can get some very, very, very fine detail, and they are a professional watercolour pencil, so the watercolour is a professional grade. So you can scratch the colours, I've got those two colours, or you can scratch them on top of each other. And the beauty of these is you can actually put as many colours as you want. There's the burnt ochre, copper beech, I may have a bit of copper beech here. So we can take our golden brown and we've got an even darker shadow. So because this is a kind of a warmish colour, it's a warm yellow, it's not a cold yellow, I would be not tempted to use a darker shadow. I'd be tempted to use a warm dark brown. If this was a cooler colour, I like using, so it's the greens, although I like using indigo, which is a cold dark blue. And then if you mix that in with your greens, you get a really nice cold shadow. So it depends on your original colour. If I'm using a red or a pinky red, I like to use burnt carmine. So there's about half a dozen dark colours that I like to put with my paler colours to make a nice shadow effect. And of course, when you get your dark shades next to your lighter highlights, they complement each other. So the lighter become lighter and the darkers become darker, and you get a very dramatic effect. So if you can get a very dark shadow next to a very light highlight, you get a beautiful popping effect with both of the tones. You get a lighter bright light and you get a darker deep dark. I hope that made sense. There is a word for it, but my short-term memory thinks that I can't. And again, I like this. There's a rule of 3 with 3 tones. So you might think the golden yellow, the gold is the light tone and the copper beech is the dark tone. And I use that rule of 3, but then we have the rule of 3 having 3 colours next to each other on the colour wheel. So there's lots of rules of 3, and then you have thirds of pages as well. So 3 is normally a very important number when it comes to making your colour pages, your colours and your compositions. I am going to try and do Art in the Abbey, start with a drawing lesson of simple shapes, shades and tones, lines, which will be a basic step-by-step start drawing from start to finish, ending in doing paintings and acrylics and oils. And it's a long process. You can't just go from drawing to oil paints. I mean, you can dabble, but it's better if you learn to draw and be accurate, because your drawing normally is your structure. So it's a bit like a building. If you don't put your good foundations down, it doesn't matter how beautiful and how expensive your materials are for building, it'll never be perfect. It'll never be structurally perfect because you didn't put the groundwork in. And that's very true, I think, in art. But again, that's that's another can of worms that we don't want to open today. So I've got my 3 colours. I mean, you might want to use a different 3 colours, or you could make the gold and add, if it was oils or acrylics, you would add white and black. Now, as I say, I don't like those 2 colours because they're too far away and they distort the original colour. I like to be next to each other in the tonal values, but sometimes that's what you want to do. If it's watercolour, you can just add water, so you have the strength of weakness of colour by adding water, but obviously it only works with water-based products. But it does work with Derwent pencils. You could just put a little bit of gold here and then you can manipulate it with a damp brush and have a watercolour effect. Or we can be more structured and more creative and use it this way. So I don't think I want to use a rigger, so I'm going to have to get my paintbrushes out. I think I'm going to use the Pearl Art Master series. So you've got to be a little bit careful with these. So I do have my pot of water and I have a face sponge. You can use a baby wipe or a face wipe, or you can use any kind of wipe, baby wipes. I'm trying to keep off baby wipes. I'm trying to get rid of mine. I redo my face wipes. I pull the top off. So I have a little bag that when I've used my face wipes, not when I've used a lot of makeup, but if I just put a little bit of eyeliner by the end of the day, and in the morning I always use one before I put my face cream on, then they're almost perfect. And I have used some of these but most of them are almost perfect. So I'm just going to re-wet these and reuse them, and then I don't have to buy a baby wipe because they're not very environmentally friendly. Of course, there's a face sponge you can use and wash out. I mean, that did look like this when I first got it, but you can get lots of different shapes. Any jam jar lid would be good, but you do need a bit of a well because this gets quite wet, and then you just squeeze it out and start again. So we're wetting the brush, drawing it back, twisting to a point. That's going to leave us a damp brush with a point. And we're not going for the watercolour effect here, we're going for a more traditional way of working. But this paper in the Kirby Rose handbook can actually take that. So of course, first of all, get my damp brush, and I want the pale colour. So I'm just going to go in with the pale. Now, after a little minute or two, I shall zoom in, and hopefully this brush is going to behave. I've got a few rogue hairs. So we've kind of got this going on. Now it is getting paler, but it's not a rig. I might change brushes actually, just see how I go on. It's got a bit of a, what's this one? Oh, this is the Art Master Series a 2. I do have the whole set, but I don't think I've got them out. Let me have a look. I might use a Series 55 rigger, so I've got 3 here. I've got some bigger spaces, so I may have to change. Again, some of these are quite old brushes, but they're synthetic and I like them. So yeah, this is this number 2. So again, I'm going down the bottom there. I mean, you could use the riggers if you wanted to, but I'm now going for kind of solid colours because I'm mixing the colour here. Actually, as if it was a palette. So if this was a pan, you would just mix them as you could normally. But I'm turning my Derwent watercolour pencils into a watercolour set using a paper palette instead. And actually I quite like that. I've got a really nice effect. I've got a beautiful highlight on there. So I could go in with my, my fine liner, which is my 10-0. And it is quite fine, and again a damp brush. I'm using this a bit wetter because it's a smaller space, so probably not drying it off too much, and we could get maybe a little bit of a, and probably too dark, that mixing it back. Now, you can't be too wet with the paper palettes, but you can play about. And what that does, it allows you to really kind of you can really get some colour going on there. So we can, if you wanted to have a bit of a shadow, depending where the light's coming from, you can have the shadow on there. And just next to me I do have a half rigger, number 20, and again it's not quite a rigger, but it's going to give me a bit of a finer brush. I am working slightly wetter, so the palette's going to buckle, but all this colour is reusable, and if you use extra wet strength, it will give you, so I've got, sometimes it's better to have the 3 brushes with all the colours on. So bigger brush with this paler colour on. do want to keep our nice golden colour, and I quite like that. It's quite nice, and again you need to follow that down now, so we've got some more highlights and then darkers. So I'll zoom in and see if you can see exactly what I'm doing. And I will try to get that so you can see. So I've got a lovely highlight on there. Now it's dry, but I want to leave it a little bit longer, and then I shall put some darks just on the side there. In fact, it's very dry, so I could do that now. And you work as you go along, whereas sometimes you don't always do that. So I do want a little bit of kind of, although it looks like it's the shadow on that side now. The highlight's going that way, which would be nice for all the birds. No, I want the highlight going the other way. So, but I do like that. I may leave that as it is, I think. So, swapping the different brushes about, picking up some colour. And 3 brushes should be fine. So this is a little bit darker. Now ideally I wouldn't obviously like the lines of the colour page, but I can't really get to that. So again, I seem to have got an actual highlight at that side now. So I just barely touch the tops. I have a highlight which doesn't match because obviously I've got the highlight at that side. I may have to change that, I think. But it gives it a little bit more about it. So we have one more ring. And that could possibly be a ridge, so we might make that a little bit darker. So just mixing, and again it's a nice quiet way to work. You could scratch the colour on the paper palettes, and that will allow you to, so I've got that dark. And then by the time they get up here, now we could use, oops, the rigger. And I want to take that to white, which I have done. So we've got that nice effect. So we've got this one going out there. And I want to get it almost white, then I can put the colour of the bird or what's ever attached coming backwards, so that every colour matches backwards. Sorry guys, that was the tea boy. Just so I'm just going to very carefully put that in, and I want that one lighter than this one. And again, because you've numbered it, you can always scratch a bit more, but we're doing quite well with this one. So this is going to, I want it to be dark and go to light, but I think I'm going to get that effect. Let me see what these brushes I've got handy. Oopsie, sorry guys, oops, avalanche. I tend to be quite boring. I buy the same size brushes all the time because they just happen to be my fave. I've got a 5-0 there, so I've got a 10-0 and a 5-0. That's quite a nice one. So again, I'm going for rounded brushes rather than riggers now. And sometimes I have cheapy ones. I use the cheap ones normally for mixing. Always keep your old brushes for mixing. And so I found that I think that one may have to go. It's split, but I have found a 5-0 and a 2. I was using the 2, wasn't I? I found another half rigger, so I'm obviously, that's my thing. So I've got 1 or 2 for different sizes. I'll need a slightly bigger one for the bigger spaces. What did I want to do? I wanted to put a little bit of dark to create a shadow. Same with this one. Now because this is dry and it's a very hot day, I can do it today, but normally I wouldn't do this. I would probably do this the following day, because it does need to dry out. And we could possibly just put a little bit of a darker shadow on that one. And then that really does make that one pop. And that one just there. It is extremely warm in this room today. So I'll do this one down there first, and then again it's not a rigger, so we've got to work a bit wetter. So I've got that quite nice. need to go back onto there again, and about here it's going to change colour. So I'll do the next one, and then I'll do the greens and work backwards so you can see about mixing. So again, I'm still using the yellow. It's always easy to stroke down, so really maybe start at that side and come back up, because we want it the palest at the top, and that's where it's going to change colour. But I can go back in and put the shadow at the bottom a little bit later. So I need to look for a green now. So I put my pens on. This is my BTSKY 216, and it's basically holds 27 pencils in these loops, and it's like a file system, and there's 4 sleeves which are double-sided. So I have my yellows and oranges. I think everybody's seen this one before. I will put a link in below. So on the back I have my greens, and I always like olive, but we'll just have a look. There's an emerald green, mineral green I like very much. Now again, sometimes you look at the end of the pencil and you think, okay, yeah, that's a light green, and that's a dark green, that's an olive. So the reason I love my little book of watercolours is I can find my pencil and I can look for mineral green, and I can think, yeah, okay, this is the colour that I'm going to get, but if I use it pale or watered down, I've got 10 shades from this one pencil. So I'm not only looking at this section here, I can look here and think, well, actually I kind of like this one here, or I like this one there but I don't like it there. And so this gives you an indication of the colours. So I think I like the mineral green. Again, we've got sap green. Actually, I like sap green, but I like it about here, not there. So that's going to tell me that I find sap green 49. I need to scribble some colour on my paper palette. So I'm going to put 49 there and scribble a little bit of colour. So I can do 2 things. I can put the pale gold next to it, number 3, and when I mix them together, so I've got my gold and then I go into the green. They're a little bit dustier than my original ones, these, but again, what you also can do is have a piece of paper, which I normally have. Mine's on the floor at the minute. You can do it on here if you want. Yeah, I kind of like that, but I want to go towards this colour. So the middle bit is going to be half and half, I think. And then pick up some green, and again we've got this colour down. In fact, I'm actually going to use all that colour because I can go back in and create some shadows and some dark greens. So always with watercolour you work light to dark, so we've put all that pale in, and then we'll go somewhere else and do something else for a few minutes. This is a very hot day, so it will dry. Normally I would say leave it and go somewhere else. I kind of like that, but again I want Series 55 Art Master Pale number 50, because I want this to be kind of really dark, and it wasn't because I'm not used to working this wet. I normally like my watercolour effect, so it takes a bit of practice to get back into it. But I've got almost the best transition. And remember, this is a Derwent watercolour pencil, so you can go back in and you can move it about. As I say, I wouldn't have done that straight away, except for it's an extremely warm day today in this in my room. And now we need a darker green, but again I'm going to use indigo blue, which is, thank you darling, which is number 36. No, it needs to go down. So I'm going to put it up there.
Come on, Alfie.
And what did I say? That was 36. So 36. And then Alfie, that's naughty. Good boy. But this will do something magic to this green. I can take the green and it's going to give me a lovely shadow. Now, it doesn't always work well in colour books because we've got this dark line, but it means you can mix the green. And you can have a dark colour over the top. So you can have a shadow. I think you need to work a bit wetter, but as I say, it's extremely warm in my room today. But you have a lot more control when it's a paper palette. Oh, hi Susie, welcome to Bunny's Designs. Yes, he's been a terror. Oh, I've got another spider. You can just go there, thank you. So I'm going to do all the golds and then follow around. I don't think we actually need the sponge at this point because we can work slightly darker and slightly wetter. But if your colour page wasn't as strong as this one, you'd want to work from bottom to top. My little darling is chewing the door to get in. So we've got a natural highlight for that side, but I actually kind of like, I want a bit of a different highlight. I want a bit of a golden colour down here. So I'm using that 59, the 59. 59 was the golden colour and 61 was Copper Beech, so I need to put 61 there. And it's a bit damp, that. Let's see if we can go over it. Yep. Normally again I would wait. Yeah, finding it a bit easier not to use the brush, the sponge, beg your pardon. I'm finding it a bit easier not to do that. So, again, we can go back in there and put a shadow, but one thing we can't do is put a highlight. So perhaps I should have started at the bottom and then I've left the top bit because I want that to be lighter. So again, we'll put that there. And this was inspired by a friend I went to visit yesterday, and she'd done a golden cage, and I thought, oh yes, golden cage. So sometimes you can get inspired by other people's colours. And I struggled with another one in this one as well, and I'll be using Jean's colours because they were just magical. And apologies if you can hear the monster. So I've got a little bit of gold going on. What I can do now is so I didn't scratch very much. I used hardly any pencil, whereas if I'd have been scratching with a pencil, well, one is I wouldn't have been able to do it because my hands don't use pencil. So now I have to switch brushes because I'm going to do that the thinner ones. It's always easier to do it with a thinner brush. And pick up some colour. And again, I love this easy way to work. So if I could only have one product, I would choose the Derwent watercolour pencils, because if I could use pencils, I could blend. I can use them as a blending pencil. I can use them as a watercolour. I can make colours. I can make watercolours with them. There's lots and lots of versatility in these pens. So I think I'm going to go back to the gold just to take that up to a pelican. I think it's got a pelican at the end of this one. So again, a slightly bigger brush because you've got a slightly bigger space. And of course, quite naturally, as we're doing this, oops, again, you've got to be comfortable. You can go a lot slower than me, and you can change the position of your colour book so that your wrist is just got that really nice action. That's going to be green going backwards. I think I might do that because otherwise I'll forget. So this is what my palette looks like. So again, I'm just going to take a little bit of this. And just give a hint of... Now we do have a bow there and a can, so I'm now going to take that. I had this colour here. I'm going to see if I've got any of this left, and you can see it's almost lifting up, and this is why I use this extra wet strength paper for my paper palettes, because you get all the colour back. If you were using watercolour paper, your watercolour will seep in, and we don't want it. We want to sit it on top so we can get most of it. Now you can see I'm getting bits of paper, so it's time to stop rubbing, but I probably would have revamped the colour a long time ago. 3 layers. I've only got a little bit here. So we've taken that to gold. Pick up some gold and take this one up. He's not technically attached to anything unless he's attached to that one. Oh, he's attached to that one. Okay then. So again, sometimes you've really got to think. So we've got like a trout. Where has he gone? Here he is. He's a creature. So we follow this creature back, and his body goes there. No, there. And then it goes into that one, which goes to that one. So again, sometimes you either start at the bottom and work out, or start at the back and work from. Oh, thank you. Oh, I'm so pleased. I'm so pleased. I like mixing colours as well. I can't always do it, but I do like mixing my own colours, because again, you know, that green has come from that gold. It's because I've mixed the gold with it. There's some more greens here. I'm not sure I'm going to do them all the same though. That's the only thing. I just move that mixing palette out the way. So we have another one down here. So this is going to be gold until it gets. Now the gold's doing quite well because I don't have much left, but there's still a fair bit enough here to get the gold. I'm just using the tip. So we've got another leaf here. I think I'm going to do this one. I'm going to scratch. Yeah, Alfie's managed to open the door, guys. Sorry about it. Right, so I'm going to mix this. I'm going to mix this gold and then just take a bit of this green with it here. And then this is, it has to be an olive because it's a, my problem is my hands are not brilliant at the moment, so there we go. Now I could have a bow. I think there's a lot of bows. I think I'm going to have them. I don't know. Depends what type I do with the bird. We'll have to see about that one. That one is a white cloth, so I'm going to leave that. I'll leave the feather. I could do this leaf next. So again, I've got the green leaf. I'm going to stay with the green leaf. I'm not really drying the brush. Oh my goodness me. So just do this, and because this is a round brush, it's not a rigger, it holds a lot of colour, so we can go a lot longer than we could with the rigger. But that's the way I use it, so bear with me a second guys, I shall be back. Sorry about that, guys. We now have a pigs. We now have Gigi. Hi, Gigi. So we've got Piggle sitting there now. Oops. See if I can just... Oh, sorry guys. I don't know what I'm doing. There she is. She's basking. And we have Trouble. Trouble is... Oh, why can't I find Trouble? There's an Elfie. I can't see. There we go. Hi, Elfie.
It's alright.
There's a, yeah. And there's Pigs, because she loves the sun, don't you, Piggles? Good girl. So, oh, they're both running off. I don't know why they're both running off. I think they think they're going to get something. So Alfie's opened the door and let them go, as he normally does. So, oops. Right, that was a quick Alfie cam. So Kangaroo Babes, I'm mixing on colours at the moment. I have 12 inch colour wheel pencils and have been mixing lots of different colours with my polychromos. Is that a blending pencil with pencil? You can do that with the Derwents. I think I did a Christmas scene with the Derwents, and that's what I love about these pencils. You can blend these pencils. You can blend about 30 colours together and you don't get mud. Oh, brilliant. So this is, I bought the regular gouache by Turner. 2 blues, 2 reds and 2 yellows, black and white. Oh, I'm so pleased that you are using, oh hi Kingo, that you're using your colours. Even though there's 72 pencils, you know, you can make thousands of colours from these two. I mean, I've got probably about 6 greens here, and about 4 or 5 golden browns. So quite like that idea. So I like the gold and the blue. Sorry, the gold and the green gave me this colour, and I like that one. This is a bit paler, and this is paler still. So I think I'm going to put a bit more green here again because it's now dried completely. This is what happens on your colour books. It dries completely. You just revamp it by doing that, but you can't do it when it's wet because you destroy the page. But extra wet strength is pretty good for that. So go back in, and again, I'm not going to be using, I'm working quite wet on the colour page to get these mixed, these colours. It's a bit strong, is that, as in it's not a weak solution, but it's still a pale, so I'm still getting this kind of olive colour. And the reason I've got that colour is because the particular yellow that I'm using happens to be it happens to be a golden yellow, an orange yellow. If it was a cooler yellow, it wouldn't do it as much. So a slip of tea.
Alfie.
Oh, Kangaroo says I've got a limited palette of 12 pencils. and 8 natural blacks, greys and favourite browns. Yes, that's quite nice. Browns are a bit of a pest, but you come up with unusual ones that you don't normally see, if that makes sense. Sometimes when I'm doing a colour book page, a colour book, I don't want to mix my colours, and sometimes I do. And you will sometimes look at a colour page and have no idea, like this one with the bird with, I think it's the bird with all the jewels in it, and I had no idea because I thought that bird was black and white, and then I saw a friend of mine that's done this, she's gone the kind of turquoise blue and turquoise green, which I love, and I'm thinking I would not have thought of that for that bird. So you do get your inspiration from all sorts of things, but sometimes colours come to you and sometimes they don't, and that's why some pages I haven't coloured. Now I've gone the wrong way, I've got the green, so I'm going to do this one next. I shall probably take this backwards. But it is extremely warm in here because we're having this beautiful sunshine. And so this one has kind of gone the different way. It's gone green, and then I'll take the gold back up. So go back into the gold, and this page is buckling now, but that's fine. It's a paper palette page, so it's not precious. I'm not rubbing on it. I don't want to re-rub if it's wet, but the fact that it's buckled is fine because it's going to be a reference for this particular page, because I will come back to this page and think, oh, I like that colour, and have no idea how I made it. So at least this way I have some recollection. And trying to take that back to gold, because of course it's going to be gold, it's not going to be this colour. There's this particular long one here that goes kind of on and on and on, and then it goes into a leaf. So again, this one's got the gold on it for a bit, and then it's going to have the green, and then that's gone into a pelican, so I think I want the green here now. But obviously I can go back in there with some quite dark greens. Now I've got that green. There is some more green behind there, so I think I'm going to do this darker green purely because it gets these leaves, and of course when you've done the leaves at the background you can see the birds in the foreground. So sometimes I mean, now we've got a cupcake there, but I'm going to leave the cupcake. I always leave the obscure things till last, do the easy things like the leaves, follow the stalks, follow the stems, and do the leaves. And this is a tail, so this is a cloud, so when I've done the leaves I'll probably do that one. Some leaves here, so and this is almost the neat 49, but it's watered down, so it doesn't have any yellow in it. I don't think there's not much yellow left in this. This is probably off the scale when it comes to number 49. So if we look quickly at 49, which is sap green. So that's what sap green looks like. But I'm about here, I think, because it's watered down. And I'm just actually going to move the palette. And again, this is just a really nice way to work. You could mix the colours on the plastic from here, because every page has got its plastic. So you could, but sometimes I like to mix in this one. The other thing you could do, if you wanted, you could scratch a whole page of colour for the colours that you want to use for that page, tear this out and put it in here, and then you've got the paper palette with that. In fact, I might actually do that. I might actually do that with this one. I shall tear this out and leave it here so it's got the colours that I need. And then of course I can't forget then. So we've got a few more here of this sap green. So the sap green has almost gone and it's buckled, but there's still a bit of colour in there. And I don't want the strong one, I want the pale one, and I'm just doing the tip because I've just found where these end. So there's a bit there, and then here. Again, wet the brush and just pick up a bit of colour. I'm not using all the brush, I'm just using 2/3, not going right up. So I'm keeping a little bit of dampness, which is allowing me to use the brush a bit more. So we have a leaf here, and again sometimes you've got to look twice because that's the beak, that's the leaf, and then we have a leaf here. But this is how I do the Kirby's. I like to get some leaves, things that I know what the colours are. I like to get them behind, because then you can sort out what belongs and what doesn't. So we've got flowers at the top of there, but there's some leaves here. So again, dampen the brush. It's not too wet. But this isn't the very strong sap green that you see. And it kind of disappears now, so again, that's a bit strange. That one goes to here. I've got some more leaves at the top here. Can't see any more leaves, but I will probably have missed some because this is a Kirby Roseanne, and you can guarantee you miss things. I don't know what that one is, but it's got a stick sticking out of it. Now I found a rose, so I'm going to bring in a bit more different colour. So I've managed to take, if I can zoom out a bit, you can just see that although I haven't done much, it's taken about an hour. But what I have done is made it easier to see other things. So we've got our golds, and we've got some leaves, and just a few leaves. So instantly all the birds and everything have kind of popped up a bit now. It's not too confusing in some of those areas. And we have a flower here, and there's a feather behind. So I'm going to have to look at that one. I think I'm going to pick the flowers next. I think I'm going to pick the red rose here. So again, I can either look here at the colour swatches. And look, oh, that's quite nice. There's Madder Rose and Crimson Lake. I think I like Crimson Lake number 20. So I can pick out number 20. Now I normally put my pencils back. So I've used, if you look at the nib, and I don't sharpen mine to a sharp point, I sharpen them to get the wood out of the way with the comb extra fine long point pencil sharpener, but I don't, and I haven't used that much. It's a bit flatter than the others, but not much. So we've got, oh, I do like Geranium Lake though. You have a look at Geranium Lake. Yeah, I think I don't know actually. I like a darker one. I think I'm going to use Crimson Lake. And Crimson Lake is a pink red. So again, instead of writing Crimson Lake, I'm just going to scratch a bit of colour here. That is wet, that, and it's bubbled. And these are a little bit crumblier than my original set. So I need to catch all that bit of dust. So I can actually pop the pencil back safe, which is quite nice. I seem to be using this number 4 Artmaster Pearl paintbrush, which is a normal round one, round to a point, but it's not a fat watercolour, and it's not a fat watercolour brush. It's just basically, I'm going to go darkest because this is very strong because I've mixed the colour here. So I need to go the darkest, and then I can add a touch of water. And I've got a highlight, and then I can kind of do other things later if I want to. Oh, sorry guys, I do get carried away. Well, Kangaroo Bases, I've come up with a lot of browns, blues, greens, and a few purples, yellows and oranges, reds. Haven't you started on the neutrals? Yeah, you don't. Once you start, you can make so many colours. It's and they're different. But you may find some. So if you take a pinky red and you add an orange to it, you're going to come with a vermilion, and a vermilion is an orange red, but you've made it from an orange. And it's just the other side of the cadmium red, so it's slightly orangier, and so your browns are going to be so much different depending on which red you use. As the same with the purples, with the blues and the reds. So I think this might be a paler colour as well. And again, I'm sticking with the pale colours because I can always go back in and do some nice deeper colours. So this looks a little bit kind of like a rose, so I'm just going to touch a touch of water because this brush still has colour on it, and that's a very pale, but it's now a pink. It's now become a pink. This one I think might be an orange, so I can either make an orange, but I did scribble again, there's a pale vermilion, which is number 15. So I'm going to wet all that, and that is quite wet, but when it dries, it won't lose the dust then. And I think that might be, I'll do that orange. And if you do this orange now, and I've used most of that, and then find the green again, and we put, it's dried because it's like an oven in this room. We've got an olive. So you can get some really nice colours with this. There's lots of different ways to use these pencils. They are really, really quite good. In fact, they're pretty awesome. What did I see up here? And I thought, wonder what the colour that would be. So we've got a pelican, and there's another pelican. They're a bit pelicanish, but that's a swan, that's a swift, that's an owl, and I thought that was a barn owl, but this one was there's another owl somewhere. And so I've got a pelican. That looks like a hummingbird. So again, this is where you can change the colours of the birds. I think that's a hummingbird. So I think I want to do that. Teals and greens. So again, we want the turquoisey green. So we've got a jade green, and we have kingfisher blue. So I want number 41 and number 38. So we want, no, not 38. What do I see? There's jade green. We do have a turquoise blue, but I think I wanted kingfisher blue. So I've got these two. And they do look nice on there, but when you see them, so I think I'll have the wings blue. So again, it can be here. And maybe an inch square is enough. And the same with the green. And I want them to touch because I want to mix. I want to have a bit of both colour, a medium tone. So this is number 41, and this is very roughly done. You could do it really neat if you wanted, but there's not much point. The information is there, and then I can actually put the pencils back, because you never know when there's a bungle about. So again, water, and I'm going to mix all that together, and I'm going to start on the tips. I think maybe I should have done again, I don't want what I normally do, those really strong hydrous colours and peerless, but I want the lovely soft colours. And again, my paintbrushes are not behaving because it really is quite warm here in here. I keep meaning to get a thermometer, but I keep forgetting. So quite pretty. and then I'll do the same with 421 and collect that little bit of dust. Now this one doesn't have any dust. This is the original Derwent. So again, underneath, spread that out. And we need a beak. I think we're going to have I think it could be quite nice if they all had golden beaks. So we've got a beak. That one looks a bit like a swift. That one looks like a dove. That's almost dove-like. That one is really dove-like. So we can do two things. We can either completely forget about that and just colour them any colour we like, or we can Google the actual birds they look like. I like the idea that maybe they're darker and they get paler and paler and paler, because we've got a swan and a swift, and a pelican. A pelican. I don't think we've got a parrot. Let me have a look. Let's see if we've got a parrot. I don't think we go to parrots, so the owl could be either a snowy owl or a barn owl. I kind of like the idea of a barn owl. So this one can either just be a pale colour, or I can, really look at the colours and do purples and blues. I think I might do that. So we'll have, as soon as I got that dark, what was it? Dark violet and red violet. They look quite nice. Let's have a look at these. You can change your mind, of course. 25. And 24. What did I miss, guys? And thanks for stopping by. I just have to put my... It's getting rather warm. The sun's obviously having a moment. It's coming around the corner. What did I miss, guys? So just bring that colour, and you see all those lovely colours. Mix these together, and I've got something quite nice. So I think I'm going to wet the brush. I do have a little bit of, it's almost like a dusky pink rather than a purple. I think the body purple and the dusky pink. And again, I'm just doing a rough pale colour over, I think I might want to, my water colours are just melting. So a very soft purple. Oh, thank you, Kingo. Yes, thank you. Yes, colour mixing is fantastic, and no one person will come to the same colours. I think I said I wanted all gold beaks, didn't I? So I think that would be the one thing that they joins them together, kind of thing. I've got some gold left on the end there, so just get rid of that. So we can start to get a little bit of darker in there. I think I'm actually going to put the purple, use the purple as a darker shadow. And of course Kirby Razan's put all these lovely lines for us, so that makes that good. So we've got a little bit of a highlight. And the other nice thing is, even though I'm using a watercolour, that's still my water. And if I use the sponge, so I'm not wasting anything. And again, I like that. I like the fact that all my colour is going on my colour page and it's not going down the drain. I've turned into a human cat paw. Yeah. Well, you missed Betsy Doodles. She was actually sitting on the box, the toy box, and hubby walked in and I walked in. She didn't move. So that is a first. So as I say, I think this page is kind of, it might be going to different colours, and again you can flip. We've got some nice oranges, canary birds, so an orange, and again these colours sometimes are next to each other on the colour wheel. Sometimes things like that happen by accident, and sometimes you do them on purpose, and I think things are just happening by accident. I've just left those out for the minute, but again I don't need to leave the pencils out, so I'm probably going to put them away because I know where they are, I know how I can get them. Whereas if you've got them all out, I usually end up with them everywhere on the floor. So if I put them all back, so we have, I've used the deep chrome. We do have some pinks as well. We've got magenta, so we could have a crimson lake and magenta. I don't know, I kind of fancy a Naples yellow, or deep cadmium looks like. Naples yellow and spectrum orange. I think they look quite nice. And if you put them next to each other, so that's number 7. And we said Naples yellow is almost like a tangerine colour, and spectrum orange is probably a red, slightly red orange, I would think, like a good blood red orange colour, and the other one is like a tangerine colour if we were talking colours in fruit. And I didn't number that one. That's number 11, I think, spectrum orange. Sometimes I've had to go back and watch a video and try and find them. So we've got this kind of rich orange. And again, I'm not sure now it was the right thing to do, but I've started it, so I'm going to have some, they're pastel colours, but they're bright colours, they're not. And as I say, these are a little bit dustier than my other ones. And that's to do with that's all to do with the binder. It's nothing to do with the colour pigment, it's all to do with the binder. So we could, might leave that to dry. It's dry now, but really dry. Before I wanted to mix these two together. And that's going to make it's so warm in this room. It really is. I shouldn't complain. But we can leave all these to have. Again, we can start to put a little bit of a shadow in if we want, and it makes them all pop out. I cannot keep my brush wet enough at the moment. So we start with the palest, as in always watercolours, always do it, because you can always go darker, but you can lift these particular ones, but I wouldn't recommend it on a colour page. But you can definitely lift Derwent watercolour pencils. You can lift the paint off if you're on, and I could actually do that darker. So I obviously now need a shade darker, and I think I'm going to use Scarlet Lake. So we've got number 12. So that's giving me a shadow for my colour. So I've got a little bit more about it. I'd forgotten about the kitties. You miss Bungle's delightful nose. He's going back to the vets. He's turned into Mr. Snotty. So 49. I need some more sap green, and because it's dry as a bone in this room, that's dried now, so I can go over that. And I found another leaf there, so give that a little bit of greenery. Since we've got it on the brush, we may as well I've got to use it further down, so this one here could do with a little bit of and you can keep building up as long as you let it dry. You can do it as many times as you want if you're working in this way until you're happy with it. I kind of like those three birds. I like that colour. If I zoom in a little bit, you might be able to see the colours slightly better. So we've got a lovely highlight on the gold, and then we've got our three birds. So thank you for watching.
Being told.